Oink, oink, oink. Donald Trump is an utter pig. And this is not to be insulting to pigs. Pigs are adorable animals. I'm speaking metaphorically. This man is greedy as F. I cannot even begin to tell you what a disgraceful plan he has. So, bottom line is this. It's all coming together. Donald Trump, who had his crew take a wrecking ball to the East Wing, and there's more. The whole damn thing has now been knocked down, has been saying two things about it. One, the East Wing will not be touched. It will maintain its integrity. Well, that was a lie. The whole thing has been knocked down. And two, he said that he has these donors who are going to front or pay the $250 million to get this thing done. Guess what, my friends? I don't think he has the money. And you know how we know that? We know that because the New York Times broke a story on Monday that Donald Trump was going to be demanding that the Department of Justice, meaning us, taxpayers, that we are going to, he wants the government, the US government, to pay him $230 million. Where did that number come from? He just flippin' made it up. Let's listen to what he had to say about this, and then I'm going to explain his theory and, my friends, why he's going to get it. Because no one in the Republican Party will stop him. Let's play this.
Yes, very good.
Let's follow up on her question to you, because the New York Times is reporting that your legal team is seeking $230 million from your own Justice Department now in response to the investigations into you.
It could be.
Is that something you want your legal team to do?
I don't know what the numbers are. I don't even talk to them about it. All I know is that they would owe me a lot of money, but I'm not looking for money. I'd give it to charity or something. I would give it to charity, any money. But look, what they did, they rigged the election. And as you know, we had, in one case, 60 Minutes had to pay us a lot of money. George Slobodanopoulos had to pay us a lot of money, and they already paid. You know, they paid me a lot of money because what they did was wrong. And, you know, when somebody does what's wrong. Now, with the country, it's interesting because I'm the one that makes the decision, right? And, you know, that decision would have to go across my desk. And it's awfully strange to make a decision where I'm paying myself. In other words, did you ever have one of those cases where you have to decide how much you're paying yourself in damages? But I was damaged very greatly, and any money that I would get, I would give to charity.
Oh, let's listen to that again.
And, you know, when somebody does what's wrong. Now, with the country, it's interesting because I'm the one that makes the decision, right?
Okay. Couple things about this. Let's just back up. Number one, there is no litigation that Donald Trump has brought against the Department of Justice. Instead, he's put forward some complaints claiming he should be compensated. And the complaint system he is using, again, is not court. And this is typically used by individuals who've been acquitted on criminal charges, or there had been corruption involved in the case against them, and they go ask for money to compensate them, to pay them back for their legal fees, perhaps also to compensate them for the harm done to them. Okay. And so Donald Trump is looking at two instances. One, he's claiming he was falsely investigated, or that he was corruptly investigated in connection with the January 6th attack on the Capitol. He's saying, you know, this is terrible. And he's saying the whole investigation, I mean, let me just back up and just tell you this is his perspective, that still the big lie that he did not lose the 2020 election. And his claims, specifically, his claims that Jack Smith should never have been appointed to investigate him, that he wasn't authorized to do so, despite that we have a statute that creates a special counsel. That is his argument. The second complaint that he had filed, that complaint, but not a legal in court complaint, but claim he had filed, and this is previously, right now he's putting a number on these. The second one he filed related to the raid on his home at Mar-a-Lago and taking his documents, even though these were, number one, government documents, and number two, they were given back to him. Remember, this is crazy stuff. These are national security documents. So now we find out, because of this New York Times story, that Donald Trump wants $230 million. So let's share with you. I just want you to see the actual Times article so you can see what I'm talking about. And then I'm linking it because it does link to the fact that he is thinking he will just use this toward the ballroom. I kid you not. So let me share this screen with you. Okay, this is the New York Times article that came out October 21st. So actually it was Tuesday, not Monday. And here's your headline. Actually, let me do this too. I'm going to grab it. I'm giving you a GIF link. I think I copied the GIF link. Did I? Okay, maybe. And I'm going to drop this in the chat for you. One sec. Oh, it did not work. Okay, I'm not having success in getting you the free gift link, but I can probably get you the real link at a later time. Okay, so this is, Trump said to demand Justice Department pay him $230 million for past cases. Senior department officials who were defense lawyers for the president and those in his orbit are now in jobs that typically must approve any such payout. So a couple things there I think that you should notice. Number one, Donald Trump is actually not the person who gets to decide, but he gets it. Todd Blanche, his deputy attorney general, and then another lawyer that was also his private attorney, would be the deciders on this, number one. Number two, did you notice, we're going to get more into this article in a second, but did you notice that he mentioned George Stephanopoulos, the ABC news commentator? And Trump had sued him because of something he said related, I believe, to the E. Jean Carroll case, unrelated to these claims. Donald Trump's making a point that he will sue anyone he wants to, and that's how he will shake them down for money without litigation. Okay, so here we have this. This is Todd Blanche on the left, and he is a key decider. Now, remember, Donald Trump paid Todd Blanche millions of dollars to represent him. And the case that he represented him, he did end up losing. This was the 34 felony counts the jury convicted him of. Found him guilty of related to interfering in the 2016 election through falsification of business records, hiding and disguising the hush money payments made to Stormy Daniels. Okay, let's look at this article. So Trump is demanding the Justice Department pay him $230 million. He's claiming this is, again, compensation for these federal investigations. And the New York Times just straight out says, quote, "The situation has no parallel in American history, as Mr. Trump, a presidential candidate, was pursued by federal law enforcement and eventually won the election, taking over the very government that must now review his claims. It is also the starkest example yet of potential ethics conflicts created by installing the president's former lawyers atop the Justice Department," end quote. Yeah, we're so beyond ethics issues here, and we're definitely into flat out corruption and other criminality. I'm not saying this is criminal. I'm saying other aspects of what Donald Trump has done, of course, is criminal. And I won't go through those again. This includes before he was in office and even during the current presidency. As I noted, the first one, this is something he filed, an administrative claim for reimbursement. The first one was lodged in 2023. And this is about violation of his rights. This is both the special, including the special counsel, and related to the Trump campaign. I've also heard that this was also related to Jack Smith, but this is the 2016 election. Okay, so this was filed in 2023. I apologize. This is the one that deals with the 2016 investigation, the Russia one. And the second one that he filed in 2024 while he was running for office is about the Mar-a-Lago case. I apologize that I misstated the first one. I'm only reporting back. This is what the Times wrote yesterday. However, today, this morning on Morning Joe, a lawyer discussing this suggested that that first complaint related to the Jack Smith investigation. Okay, so Donald Trump said, I was damaged very greatly. Any money I would get to charity. So they updated this story and quote him right from that press conference. Let me give you one more thing before we leave this page here from the New York Times. Bennett Gershman, who is an ethics professor at Pace University, which is in upstate New York, said, and by the way, well, if he's an ethics professor at the law school, he is in upstate New York. He was at Pace, another part of Pace, he'd be downtown, but he is a law professor. What a travesty. This is what Bennett Gershman said, quote, the ethical conflict is just so basic and fundamental, you don't need a law professor to explain it. He adds, and then to have people in the Justice Department decide whether his claim should be successful or not, and these are the people who serve him, deciding whether he wins or loses, it's bizarre and too outlandish to believe. No, it's not bizarre or too outlandish to believe. This is who Donald Trump is. And of course, Donald Trump doesn't care if we call it unethical. And he doesn't even care if we call it illegal, because the United States Supreme Court majority, right, in Trump versus the United States, pretty much decided that this kind of activity, because it is right either in his Article 2 powers or peripheral part of his job to put these folks in place, to hire them, that if they decide, if Todd Blanche independently decides to approve this, to settle this claim, it will go through. Now, of course, we've got this damning press conference where he's saying he decides, which he's not the one who does. But even if that were considered untoward or unethical, even if you could dig up some kind of criminal behavior, which I don't see anything apparent, it's just a huge conflict of interest and looting of a type. Even if you could say that and find, some kind of quid pro quo type of activity behind all of this, such as that, for example, what if he hired Todd Blanche saying, I'm only giving you this job if you do X, Y, or Z? That didn't happen, probably. There'd be no evidence. But even if it did, this Supreme Court would say he could not be prosecuted. So basically, he's been given the keys to this safe, and he has backed up a giant truck, and he's going to shove as much money and goodies he can into it for himself. And if you effing think he will leave the White House willingly, where he has just knocked down the entire East Wing, which we will get to that, you must be crazy. He will not leave, period. He won't leave willingly. We saw that before. And he didn't do as good of a job the first time around. But this time around, you should know that everything he has done in the first 9 months of this presidency should show you that he has figured out how to get the most ruthless people to do his bidding, and that he will not be shamed at all. Now, I'm not worried when I say he won't leave willingly, because I think he will be made to leave unwillingly. I'm happy about that. And that unwilling thing, whether it happens soon, it could be an impeachment if we can actually get a majority in the House and finally some Republicans in the Senate, but I'm sorry, finally a majority in the Senate, and then enough Republicans, you need 60 to get rid of him. The other thing is, if the Democrats had any sense, they would run full on impeachment. I would be making that case. Okay, so let's take a look at the demo, guys. You know that yesterday I showed you this photo, and I said they talked about this as, this was in the Washington Post, this was the scoop, and I told you that I shared this with you on Tuesday. This is an article from Monday, and it showed you the so-called facade being demolished from the East Wing. And it was at that point that I was saying, you know, they say facade, but we're talking about the entry space, all these columns, right? And I pointed out that this is not his ballroom, despite the fact that is what this tweet from the author said. It's not his ballroom, it's ours. And we're now learning that he may actually get the money from us to pay for it after all. Shockers. Okay, so I want to show you what has happened since then, because the demolition has continued. Now, this is an aerial shot that BBC had, and they took it from Google. And initially, what you were looking at there, if you look at this yellow triangle at the bottom, and it's denoted with this call-out box, demolition work carried out. So what we saw yesterday in this photo, that was just that front part of the East Wing. Now, this is the public entrance for events and so on. Just to be clear, I have been both at the White House where I entered through the East Wing, and I was invited to speak with someone on Biden's staff previous to that, a year earlier. So I came through this entrance, the East Wing, in 2023 for the party that I showed you the photos from. And then I came through the West Wing way over here for a meeting. But when I went to that meeting, I also got a tour in which I was able to see both sides. Now, if you look at this, this is kind of important. You see in the center, there is the White House residence. And you can see, do you see like these tops at the top of these hallways, these breezeways that are sort of brown? Okay. If you look at these, go back over to the West Wing. This green area, which is no longer green, is the Rose Garden, right? And that Rose Garden, behind the Rose Garden is, of course, the Oval Office. It's kind of hidden here. But this long breezeway is what it's open to the air, that one is. And there are colonnades, and you can look out as you walk from the West Wing office building into the White House residence. Now, White House residence is somewhat of a misnomer in that, just to be clear, that it is not just a residence. That's where all the ballrooms are, right? Just so you know. Okay, so far, I just want to be clear. Our first day, they were like, oh, they saw the facade being torn off, okay? Now, just to be clear, so there was the facade, the column entryway. Then there's this whole space you walk through that's covered. Then you get to this other area. Now, this longer breezeway in the East Wing over here is actually, there are windows and things there. It's not all open. Okay, let's take a look at what's going on now. Oh, right. So this is what I was showing you, where you could see Emily and the facade right there. Now, update. Chris Geidner, who writes the newsletter Law Dork, fabulous writer, said, new. After the Washington Post reported Monday on the demolition of the East Wing facade, a new picture obtained by Law Dork that was taken on Tuesday shows that a substantial portion of the entirety of the East Wing has been demolished. So this is a picture someone sent to Chris Geidner from, it appears to be just across the way here. And can you see this? If you see this image right here and you see the flag in the back, that big square wedding cake building is the White House. So this whole space that has been demolished is almost the entire East Wing. What does that mean? Let me show you a little more about this. This is Rachel Maddow when she shared the article. I don't subscribe to the Washington Post anymore, but this is Rachel with a pullout quote from it. A demolition job that began Monday with the disappearance of the White House eastern entrance advanced Tuesday with the destruction of much of the East Wing, according to a photograph obtained by the Washington Post. I'm about to show you that one. And two people who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe the scene. Photos of construction teams knocking down parts of the East Wing, first revealed by the Washington Post on Monday, shocked preservationists, raised questions about White House overreach and lack of transparency, and sparked complaints from Democrats that President Donald Trump was damaging the People's House to pursue a personal priority. We have a political scientist from Townsend University in Maryland by the name of Martha Joint Kumar who said they are wrecking it. And these are the changes that cannot be undone. They are destroying that history forever. So this is that photo. I mean, if that's not a disgusting metaphor and reality for where we are, I don't know what is. Donald Trump has done more damage to the physicality of the White House than the British did when they burned it in 1812. Now I'm showing you here that colonnade area from when I was there with Emily in November of 2023. As I told you, it's not open to the air. There are windows. What you are looking at here has been torn down. Now, of course, the Christmas decorations weren't still up. Ask yourself, if you were doing a renovation, why you wouldn't go in carefully and take the columns down and save the windows and all of this, because that would take time and that would take money and that would be preservation and healing and concern for history. Donald would rather knock everything over like a toddler that he is. Okay, now let me show you, let me back out of this and show you another photo, and then I'm gonna give you a little more and we'll leave this and talk about more legal trouble and some positive news on the legal front. Okay, this was me with the person who had invited me there, also in the West Wing. The room behind you has also been knocked down. Here we go. This is also, so West Wing, I'm sorry, East Wing. In the East Wing, as you may know, are the portraits of First Ladies. You see Michelle Obama and Jackie Kennedy. I think you can see all the wainscoting. Again, this is something, this trim you could have taken down carefully and preserved. I mean, if I were doing this, which I wouldn't be, I would want to preserve these rooms for history, save them somewhere. He just knocked it down. Okay, so now I want to give you this picture again, that same overhead, and show you. I've now added an arrow so you can see this. What's going on here? This entirety of the East Wing. And when I say the entirety, all of this appears to have been destroyed, this whole rectangle there. My question is, what I don't know is whether that walkway is also gone. And I can go back to this photo and see if I can tell, but it's hard for me to see from this photograph whether he is also going to take that walkway away and build a new one that connects to his ballroom or not. Now, this is just one of the disgusting things that Donald Trump has done. And knocking down a part of the East Wing, if it happened because of an emergency or weather or something else, wouldn't bother me. And in all of the things that he has done, this isn't the worst. Of course, the worst thing is attacking US citizens and immigrants and killing people, extrajudicial killings through bombing boats without, that he claims are carrying drugs, and instead of following criminal laws and having in due process. And of course, looting the presidency. And of course, sexually assaulting people. And of course, not releasing the Epstein files. And of course, perpetually lying and lying and lying again. And of course, weaponizing his Department of Justice to go after his enemies. It's all bad. and it's all together. But there is nothing, I think, that encapsulates his egotism and his disrespect than this. And here's the deal. Doesn't surprise me, of course. You may remember this, because I do, having read about Donald Trump before he was elected. And one of the reasons why I believed he was unfit for office relates to his behavior as a businessman. And you might remember that he wanted to build a tower in New York, Trump Tower. And part of what he had to do is knock down the Bonwit Teller building. And he promised the Met, Metropolitan Museum of Art, that he would preserve these Art Deco friezes. And this is an excerpt. This was something that was excerpted in ArtNet in 2022. It was a book called Art and Crime. And this is a photo of what the Bonwit Teller building used to look like. And he refused to donate artworks that he promised to them and destroyed them. So when Donald Trump was building, you can see this article here, when he was building Trump Tower between 1980 and 1982. And again, this is an excerpt from this book called Art and Crime. And these authors here are Stefan Koldehoff and Tobias Timm. So basically, at the intersection of 5th Avenue and 56th Street, which is where Trump Tower is. So in the 80s, early 80s, when he was beginning to construct Trump Tower, that was a location of Bonwit Teller. It was a major department store. It had been built in 1929. And I'm telling you this, I'm going to stop sharing, so you don't have to stare at that. But just so you know, the people who designed that building were the same architects who had designed Grand Central Terminal. That is the gravitas of this building. And so the building basically, well, let me just back up, that it was supposed to be for a department store called Stewart. Then Bonwit Teller took it over a year later in 1930. And something you might be interested in is in the 30s, in the mid 30s, Salvador Dali, the surrealist artist, was the guy who decorated the windows and did the installations. And I don't know if you've ever been in New York City when you see these incredible window displays, especially during the holidays. And so it was an amazing space. Even the artist Robert Rauschenberg and Jasper Johns. I know these are not everybody's favorite if you don't love modernist artists, but this is the kind of space it was. It was elevated. It was high art. And at some point, though, when Donald Trump decided to buy the building, which he did in 1979 for just $15 million, he did that because the department store went into bankruptcy. The idea was when Bonwit Teller went into bankruptcy because it was struggling, they wanted to preserve this historical monument and have someone buy it. But instead of doing that, Donald Trump knocked it down. And this should not surprise you either, that he had the plan to demolish it when the contracts were signed, okay? So the only thing that he promised to give this to the Met, the Metropolitan Museum of Art. They really wanted this. So this was an 11-story building. And at the top, there were 2 limestone reliefs, panels, with women brandishing large scarves as if they were dancing. And the Met really wanted this for their sculpture collection. They also wanted that, what I showed you at the beginning, which was that geometric pattern, like lattice work above the entrance. And he agreed to donate them both, as long as the workers could remove them, right? And as reported at the time by the New York Times and the Washington Post, he broke his promise. and lied to the public. And this should also not shock you, but he used the name John Barron, which was his sock puppet name. And he pretended to be this person. So when the journalist called the Trump organization, he said he was John Barron. And he said, again, utter lie, that 3 independent experts had found the works had no artistic value and that they were only worth $9,000 and it would have cost the organization $32,000. And then you're not even, I mean, this is just so in line with who he was. Because there was a week and a half delay, there would have been a week and a half delay, he claims, it would have cost him $500,000. So he said, F it. Now, of course, there is no person, John Barron, and there was no way. There's absolutely no possible way that what he was saying was true at the time. So, of course, he does the same things. And this is why people like me warned people. Look at his business record. He has driven companies into bankruptcy and made sure he gets paid. He has been involved in settlements of money laundering cases. He bankrupted 3 casinos. He is a crooked, terrible person. And he also knocked down a historic building and was an utter pig and did not give the artwork he promised to the Met because he doesn't care about public spaces like museums, and he doesn't care about any past history. It's all about him. He knocked down an historic building and knocked down these friezes and lattice work that was utterly gorgeous and put up a disgustingly shiny, ugly tower monument to himself with his name on the side. The only question I have for you, my friends, is whether a big gold Trump ballroom will be on the outside of that building. Now, we have not lost hope. I've got some positive legal news here. But I want to say that when he is no longer in the White House, I think that ballroom needs to be repurposed, not knocked down, and devoted to be some space that lifts up democracy, lifts up power to the people, lifts up immigrants to this country, all the values we have that he tried to destroy. That should be a space. That should be a space for helping convene meetings for organizations like the UN and NATO. It should not be the Trump ballroom. Okay, so let me tell you some positive news. You probably are well aware that Mike Johnson, even though he's held a pro forma session, is still refusing to swear in someone who was elected to be in the U.S. House of Representatives from Arizona. And finally, she decided to sue. So Angelika Grijalva, has not been sworn in. And so the Attorney General of Arizona said enough is enough and brought this lawsuit. Now, why this is important isn't just because of her and the Epstein files, that she's the final vote needed for the so-called discharge position to demand these files be released from the Department of Justice. Because we know, even when that's voted, Donald Trump's Department of Justice isn't going to do it. The importance of this goes beyond that. Because if the Speaker of the House can just refuse to swear in Democratic representatives, what's going to happen then after the election of 2026? There is a real question about the swearing in practices for Congress, because they get sworn in, of course, as we know, before the electoral count. And will there be some monkey business there? So this case is exceedingly important. So I want to share with you the news of this. I've got a video from Jen Psaki from yesterday when it broke. Let us play that now.
state attorney general sued the Speaker of the House over his refusal to swear in a duly elected member of Congress. And in that lawsuit, Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays did not mince words at all. Her lawsuit reads, quote, "This case is about whether someone duly elected to the House who indisputably meets the constitutional qualifications of the office may be denied her rightful office simply because the Speaker has decided to keep the House out of regular session. If the Speaker were granted that authority, he could thwart the people's choice of who should represent them in Congress by denying them representation for a significant portion of the 2-year term provided by the Constitution." Goes on to say, fortunately, the Constitution does not give that authority to the Speaker or anyone else. Constitutional rights cannot be used as a bargaining chip. As I told you, she did not mince words. And joining me now is Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays. It's great to see you. Thank you for taking the time this evening. Last week, you said this might be coming. I mean, you gave Mike Johnson 2 days to swear in Grijalva before filing this lawsuit, which is quite a heads up. He continued to refuse, so here we are. Explain for us, I gave a little bit of, I read a little bit from it, but explain to us the argument you're making in this lawsuit and what will happen if a judge agrees with you.
Thanks, Jen. Well, basically what we're saying in this lawsuit, and it's really too bad that I had to file it, but we're saying, Mike Johnson, you're violating the law and you're violating the Constitution by refusing to swear in Adelita Grijalva, who was elected to Congress from the 7th District in Arizona now more than 4 weeks ago. And by not swearing her in, he is depriving 813,000 Arizonans of representation. That's called taxation without representation. We fought a revolution war over that. And so we're asking a court to declare that if Mike Johnson refuses to do his job, that a judge can swear her in, and then she would become a fully vested member of Congress, which she should be right now.
No question. I talked to her last week. As you said, there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who rely on the representatives in her district. So it sounds like a judge could swear her in if the judge rules in that way. You just filed this today, but it has been weeks, as you said. When could there be a ruling? How soon do you think that could happen?
I mean, it's a great question. We don't know for sure, but I will say this. We are asking and will be asking for swift action. We would really like a federal judge in Washington, D.C. That's where we filed this case to rule on this quickly. Every day, every minute that goes by is a minute that Arizonans are harmed and that Adelita cannot get to work. You know, we've recently had flooding here. That she would like to be working on. We know that she can't help people with their Social Security benefits. She can't help people with their veterans benefits.
So you get the idea there. So that case is moving forward. Hopefully it is heard right away. Now, something else to say. Donald Trump does not choose the best lawyers, and you really cannot sleep on this story from Anna Bauer of Lawfare News. If you have not heard about it yet, I want to encourage you. I'm going to give you a link to the story right now, and then we are going to highlight some of the craziest parts. It turns out that Lindsay Halligan, from the U.S. Attorney from the Eastern District of Virginia, the one who got a grand jury to indict both James Comey and Letitia James, right? Remember the other case, the one against John Bolton, was out of Maryland, right? So, okay, Lindsay Halligan, who was put in place, who had never prosecuted a single case, who was like an insurance lawyer, although she also worked on the Trump legal team involving the Mar-a-Lago documents case. Lindsay Halligan reached out via Signal, the so-called encrypted app, to journalist Anna Bauer. And a couple of things that Lindsay Halligan didn't know, which normal people who use this app or have a brain would understand, is this. Lindsay, it's like texting on your phone, although you can set your messages to disappear, let's say after a half hour, after a week or whatever. The thing is, though, even if the messages disappear, at some point. The person on the other end can do a screenshot of it while it's on their phone. They could even take another phone and take a picture of it. So then it's forever. This is logic. And if you don't have a brain that's logical like that, you really shouldn't be in your job. That's number one. Number two, and it's only encrypted in terms of people cannot get into it as it's traveling in packets across the digital sphere. Okay, I'm going to keep that simple. But the other person on the other side sees it, and they can take a screenshot of it, number one. Number two, what she didn't understand, that anyone who even watched the movie Superman, where Lois Lane schooled the super Clark Kent character, that you don't get to have a conversation or communication or text exchange with a journalist, and then at the end of it say, this is all off the record. No. Before you speak, you negotiate the terms of your communication, if any. That's how it works. So I got to tell you, this is, let me play this. This is our crazy town for the day. This is the best thing I've ever read. It's so fun. Okay. Let me just pull this up for you. This is fun. And I'm going to pull up not the article now. Instead, I'm pulling up a guy named Josh Freeman's, what he wrote, his post on this. So I think you can see this right now. Okay. This is my Blue Sky account. Okay, so it says, Josh Friedman says, oh no, Lindsay Halligan, this is not how any of this works. And what he's showing you is a screenshot between a signal exchange between Anna Bauer and Lindsay Halligan. And the reason why he has these is there's a link to the actual screenshots in the article. So this is, the first one is Lindsay Halligan. By the way, everything I ever sent you is off record. You're not a journalist, so it's weird saying that, but just letting you know. And then Anna responds, I'm sorry, but that's not how this works. You don't get to say that in retrospect. Lindsay, yes, I do. Off record. Anna, I'm really sorry. I would have been happy to speak with you on an off the record basis had you asked, but you didn't ask. And I still haven't agreed to speak on that basis. Do you have any further comment for the story? And then Lindsay, it's obvious the whole convo is off record. There's disappearing messages and it's on Signal. What is your story? You never even told me about a story. And how this began, as Lindsay, and again, I encourage you to read this piece. I gave you a link in the chat. She said, one Saturday afternoon, October, my phone lit up with a notification. I glanced down at the message. Anna, Lindsay Halligan here, it began. So began my text exchange with the woman who is prosecuting the president's perceived enemies. Now, I know that invites more questions than it answers. You must wonder, how did Anna even trust it was Lindsay Halligan? She'd never, ever received a text from her before. Read the story. It is mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing. And also the way Lindsay Halligan tried to manipulate a reporter who actually apparently also has a law degree and is not an idiot like Lindsay Halligan. Okay, my friends. One last thing before we go. There's been a lot in the news about Graham Planter, the candidate who is running on the Democratic ticket, one of the candidates running the Democratic primary to go up against Susan Collins in Maine. And although I have praised him in the past, I withdraw any praise or any endorsement of this man in light of a number of things, including the latest, the discovery that he has a Nazi tattoo on his chest, which, although he's claiming that he had no idea it was one and only is finding out now and may take it off, is not acceptable also in light of the racist and sexist things that were also discovered as part of the opposition history. If you can't say no to Nazi tattoos, That reason why we know about it is because someone found a video of him dancing in his underwear at his brother's wedding. If that's not enough, I mean, yes, people can change and develop and have, I don't know, become different people, but that training ground is not the U.S. Senate. That is what I have for you. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you in the morning.
Hello, prison mates. It's the Gen Taub Show, where welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There is hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub Show.